You are sitting at a kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a pen that keeps skipping. There is no investor. There is no mentor on the phone. There is a yellow legal pad, a skipping pen, and an idea that is not yet an idea. It is closer to a suspicion. You do not know what a holding company is yet. You know that you are about to buy something, or build something, or both. You are not yet sure of the difference. A small, unglamorous, profitable services company whose owner is 67 years old and ready to be done. The number is $380,000. You do not have $380,000. What you have is the yellow legal pad, the skipping pen, and the specific combination of preparation and audacity that tends to precede the decisions that matter. By the time this story ends, that number will have a lot of zeros after it. Act 1. The first acquisition. $0 to $380,000. The business is a commercial cleaning company. 12 employees, 3 anchor clients, an office park, a medical facility, a school district. Monthly recurring revenue of $47,000. Owner-operated, which means it runs on the owner's relationships and presence, which means the price reflects the risk of those relationships leaving with him, which means you can negotiate. You spend 4 months studying it before you make an offer. You get the financials. You talk to the employees without telling them why. You find out which clients are on contract and which are on handshakes. You learn that 2 of the 3 anchor clients are on contracts that renew automatically, and that the third, the school district, renews at the discretion of a facilities manager who has worked with the owner for 11 years, and who you arrange to meet for coffee before you sign anything. The facilities manager is a practical woman named Sandra who asks you, directly, whether you plan to keep the crew the same. You say yes, absolutely. She nods. You don't know yet that this conversation just removed the largest variable in your acquisition risk. You offer $340,000. The owner comes back at $390,000. You meet at $365,000. You do not have $365,000. What you have is $42,000 in personal savings, a business plan that a regional SBA lender finds credible enough to fund 80% of the acquisition, and a seller who agrees to carry 10% of the note himself, which means he has financial incentive to help you succeed in the first year, which is the most underrated term in a small business acquisition. You close on a Wednesday. You shake the owner's hand in the parking lot of a title company. He gives you a binder with client contacts and vendor agreements and passwords written in his handwriting on a sheet of notebook paper. You drive home with the binder on the passenger seat, and you are the owner of a business. Act 2. The operator problem. Month 6 to 18. Month 3, you are cleaning toilets. Not because you plan to, because the lead cleaner called in sick, and the medical facility client has a morning inspection, and you are the owner, and the owner is the one who shows up when no one else does. You are in a pair of borrowed gloves at 5:30 in the morning in a medical facility bathroom, and you are learning something that no acquisition course teaches you. You learn the business from the inside of the business. You learn which clients call with unreasonable complaints and which ones never complain until they cancel. You learn that your best employee, a woman named Rosa who has worked there for 6 years, runs the morning shift with a precision and care that the previous owner never formally acknowledged or compensated for. You give Rosa a raise and the title of operations lead, and you tell her directly that this business does not work without her. She stays. This matters more than any other decision you make in the first year. You also learn, by month 8, that you cannot scale this business while also operating it. Every hour you spend in the field is an hour you cannot spend finding the next acquisition. You are the operator and the owner simultaneously, and those 2 roles are pulling in opposite directions, and you have to resolve the conflict before the conflict resolves you. You hire a general manager. His name is Derek. He costs you $58,000 a year, which reduces your personal take-home significantly, which is uncomfortable for 6 months and correct in retrospect. By month 14, Derek is running daily operations entirely. You have stepped out of the business. The revenue has grown from $47,000 a month to $61,000 a month because Derek, freed from the constraints of the previous owner's social calendar, went after 2 new client contracts that the previous owner had simply never pursued. You are no longer a business operator. You are a business owner. The difference is the most important distinction you will make in the first 2 years. The second rule: the operator problem is the first problem every acquirer faces and the one that kills the most potential holding companies before they become one. You cannot buy the second business until you have stopped running the first one. Act 3. The holding company structure, month 18. You are sitting with a business attorney and a CPA in a conference room that smells like coffee and old carpet. They are explaining a structure to you. At the top, a holding company, an LLC or a C Corp depending on your exit plans, and you should think about your exit plans even now. Below it, operating companies, each one owned by the holding company, each one legally and financially separate. The holding company does not operate, it owns. The operating companies generate revenue and pay management fees upward to the holding company. The holding company uses that cash to fund the next acquisition. You ask how many businesses people typically put under a holding structure. The attorney looks at the CPA. The CPA says, as many as you can manage without losing track of any of them. The attorney says, the structure scales. The question is whether you do. You form the holding company on a Thursday afternoon. You name it something plain. 2 initials and the word holdings, or a family name and capital, something that sounds like it has been around longer than it has. You transfer the cleaning company into it. The cleaning company is now a subsidiary. You are now technically a holding company owner. The entity is empty. 1 company beneath it. 0 cash reserves at the top level. A general manager running the one operating business you own. But the architecture exists, and architecture, in business, the way in construction, determines what you can build on top of it. The third rule: the holding company structure is not something you build when you have multiple businesses. It is something you build before you need it, so that when the second acquisition comes, the foundation is already there. Act 4. The second acquisition, year 2, $1.2 million. You find the second business through the first one. One of your cleaning company's clients, the office park, is managed by a small property management firm. 3 employees, a portfolio of 8 commercial properties, $180,000 in annual management fees. Owner who took it on as a side project 15 years ago and has been managing it part-time ever since. It is not for sale until it is. The owner calls you one afternoon. You had a standing relationship from the cleaning contract, and mentions, in the tone of someone floating an idea they have already decided on, that he is thinking about stepping back. You buy the property management company for $280,000, different structure this time. No SBA loan, too slow for the timeline. Instead, a HELOC on a property you acquired during year 1 of the cleaning business, seller financing for 60% of the purchase price, and cash from the management fees that the holding company has been accumulating upward from the cleaning company for 8 months. You now own 2 businesses. Combined monthly revenue, $91,000. Combined debt service, $6,200. Both businesses have professional management in place. Neither business requires your daily presence. You are at your kitchen table again. Different legal pad, better pen. It requires one more acquisition. You know what kind of business you are looking for. The fourth rule: the second acquisition is easier than the first because you bring something the seller cannot price into the deal: evidence. Evidence that you have done this before, that you can close, that you will honor what you said you would honor. Act 5. Building the portfolio. Years 3 to 7. $1.2 million to $12 million. You develop a thesis. Not formally. Not written down in a pitch deck for investors you don't have. Pest control. Landscaping. HVAC. Specialty logistics. These businesses are boring. They are also everywhere. Every mid-size market in the country has 10 of them, and half of them are owned by someone who is 62 years old and has never been approached by a buyer, because buyers are looking at tech companies and not at the pest control business doing $2.3 million a year in recurring revenue. You acquire 4 more businesses over 5 years. None of them headline-worthy. Each of them profitable on acquisition, integrated carefully, given a general manager within 12 months, and left to run. You make mistakes. You hire the wrong general manager for the HVAC company and spend 7 months fixing the damage before the right person is in place. You overpay for a landscaping company in year 4, not dramatically, but enough that the debt service is tighter than you like for the first 18 months. You lose a key account at the property management company and spend 3 weeks closer to the operations than you have been in 2 years. But you also learn something through the mistakes that the acquisitions alone could not teach you. You learn how to read people, how to evaluate whether a general manager will hold when things get difficult, how to hold a negotiation without urgency. By year 7, the holding company owns 6 operating businesses, combined annual revenue, $12 million, combined EBITDA, $2.4 million, a management team of 6 general managers running daily operations across 4 markets. You have not cleaned a toilet since month 3 of year 1. The 5th rule: a holding company is not a collection of businesses. It is a system for deploying capital, operating talent, and management bandwidth across multiple businesses simultaneously. The system is the asset. The businesses are the evidence that the system works. Act 6. Institutional capital and scale. Years 7 to 12. $12 million to $80 million. A private equity firm calls you on a Tuesday, not to acquire you, to partner with you. They have been watching the portfolio. They like the thesis: fragmented local service businesses, disciplined acquisition criteria, repeatable integration playbook. They want to accelerate it. They are offering a structured equity investment, growth capital, that would allow you to acquire larger targets than your current cash generation supports. The terms: they take a minority stake in the holding company. You maintain control. The capital deploys against a pipeline of acquisitions you have already identified but could not fund alone. You spend 60 days on due diligence, not of them, of yourself. You hire an independent advisor. You model the scenarios, what the equity dilution costs you over 10 years in each outcome, what control provisions you are and are not willing to accept. What happens to your management team if the capital partner's priorities diverge from yours? You negotiate harder on terms than on valuation, because terms are what you live with and valuation is what gets quoted in press releases. You take the deal. The capital accelerates everything. In the 4 years following the partnership, you complete 11 acquisitions. The portfolio expands from 6 businesses to 17. Revenue crosses $40 million in year 9, $60 million in year 10, $80 million in year 11. You move the holding company out of the LLC structure and into a C Corp in preparation for the eventual exit or recap. You build a proper corporate infrastructure, a CFO, a VP of operations, an M&A analyst whose entire job is finding and evaluating acquisition targets. The kitchen table is still there. The legal pad is still there. But the business being built at that table is something that 3 years ago would have been completely unrecognizable from the seat you were sitting in. The 6th rule: institutional capital is not a reward for success. It is a tool, with a cost and a set of obligations. The question is not whether to take it. The question is whether the terms allow you to remain the architect of what you are building. Act 7. The exit and the recap. Years 12 to 15. $80 million to $500 million. You do not sell the holding company. That is the thing most people assume comes next. The big exit, the wire transfer, the private jet story. And the offer comes. In year 12, a strategic acquirer comes in at a valuation that makes you wealthy beyond anything you wrote on that legal pad. You sit with it for 6 weeks, you hire a banker, you run the process, and then you do a recap instead. A recapitalization. You take significant cash off the table, enough to be financially independent regardless of what happens next, while retaining a majority stake in the ongoing business. The private equity partner rolls their equity forward. A new institutional investor comes in at a higher valuation. The holding company continues operating. You continue as CEO. The management team stays intact. In the 3 years following the recap, the portfolio completes 8 more acquisitions. Revenue crosses $200 million. EBITDA reaches $38 million. A second recap in year 14 values the holding company at $500 million. You are sitting at your kitchen table. Not the first kitchen table, A different one? In a different house? In a different city if you chose to move, though many people in your position don't. The legal pad is there. The pen works this time. And at the top of the page is a number that has many zeros after it, and that began 15 years ago as the price of a cleaning company owned by a 67-year-old man who was ready to be done. $380,000. $500 million. The distance between those two numbers is not brilliance. It is not a single insight or a moment of genius. It is a system, applied consistently over 15 years in the unglamorous category of businesses that everyone overlooks and everyone needs. The seventh rule, the holding company endgame is not the exit, it is the optionality. At $500 million you can sell, recap, IPO, pass it to your children, or keep running it. That freedom, the freedom to choose what the next chapter is what you were actually building toward from the moment you sat down at the first kitchen table with the skipping pen and a number at the top of a legal pad. The machine is running. The options are yours. Somewhere tonight there is a person sitting at a kitchen table with a legal pad. They are not thinking about $500 million, or whatever the price is of the small, unglamorous, profitable business in their city that is being run by someone who is ready to be done and has no buyer. That business is the first stone of a foundation. The holding company is not a concept for large corporations. It is a structure, a legal architecture and a capital deployment system and a management philosophy that begins with one acquisition. You do not need $500 million to start. You need the yellow legal pad, the number at the top of the page, the willingness to spend 4 months studying a business before you make an offer. The structure scales. The question is whether you do. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.